Hello. We've got on to today's podcast, we have Paul McNally, who's a good, long-standing friend of mine, fellow business broker, and is the chair of Business Brokers of Florida. Let's shorten that to BBF, how we always...
There we go. It's great to be here, Shaun.
Always know that. And we're going to talk specifically about BBF and how it operates and how it helps buyers and sellers and makes things happen in our industry in Florida. And indeed, we've got reaches elsewhere, which we'll talk about. But Paul, first of all, I'm going to just ask you a question. Are you familiar with a fellow Irishman of yours and mine, Sir Ernest Shackleton? Are you familiar with the story of Sir
I am
Ernest?
not.
You're not?
Share that with me.
Okay, well, Sir Ernest Shackleton was one of our great explorers, and by our I'm taking Great Britain now, but he actually was from Ireland. He was a real Irish rogue. I do believe he liked to drink, and I don't think he was always as honest as he needed to be. But he was the man who took, he had several trips down to Antarctica with Scott first of all, and then by himself, and then he went down, and his boat was trapped in the ice and lost, and 28 men saved them all. Do you not know the story of Sir Ernest Shackleton?
Never heard that.
Oh my goodness me!
I need to learn some history.
Over a wee dram, we'll have to discuss that in more
Sounds
detail.
good. What do you have in that?
Unfortunately, not what I'd like to be drinking. So I went down to Antarctica 2 years ago. And while I was down there, I went to the Falkland Islands and picked up this mug. So
wow.
My brokerage is called Shackleton Brokers LLC. Just in homage to
in honor of that. There you go.
Our friends.
I'll have to look up some of that history.
You got to do. Better to discuss it over a dram, though.
Sounds good to me.
So, in particular, we're going to ask Paul, who is the chair of Business Brokers of Florida, as I said, and what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about how we operate and how things happen differently here to, I'm going to say, anywhere else in the United States. I think
it's anywhere else in the world.
And of course, means anywhere else. So when you talk about business brokering and you say, well, in the world, really, I think of it as, quite honestly, I think it would be in USA and Canada, and then principally USA. But yeah, let's talk about that. So let's ask first of all, if you wouldn't mind, Paul, how does BBF operate? Describe it for us, please.
So Business Brokers of Florida, BBF for short, is a professional association, and some of the things that really we do is we, number one, uphold high ethical standards. We provide education and resources for our brokers to be better brokers, and also a lot of resources that they can share with buyers and sellers that are going to help them in their deals. We do also operate a huge data-rich business MLS system, similar to what people understand how the realtors operate with an MLS system with residential houses. We call ours a BLS system, business listing system, which we have currently probably about 2,500 businesses on that throughout the state of Florida. And in our association, we encourage co-brokerage, collaboration, and we're advocates for professionalism across the Florida brokerage community. And as a result of that, BBF really helps brokers better serve sellers, buyers, and the overall business community, and is widely regarded as the gold standard for business brokerage organizations nationwide.
Paul, well, I've said this to people many times. I'll say what I say. We'd kill for a good listing, but once one of us has got it, 1,000 are trying to sell it. Would that be right?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, that's how big we are. About 1,000
yep.
brokers and agents.
Yep, we've got just under 1,000, mm-hmm. and we thought we'd hit 1,000 this year. I think we're about 10 short, with not too long to go for the rest of the year. But That's about we maintain that on a pretty regular basis. We'll lose some as we renew because some people don't make it in our business, and we'll gain some next year, and we'll be back to the 1,000, and probably I would say we'll exceed that next year.
What is it? If you're 3 years as a broker, then you're good for good.
You're probably going to be making it. You're probably going to make it.
What are you now? How many years have you been there?
17 years.
17. 21. I'm 21. Yeah. It's once you're in, it's difficult to get out.
It is.
It's a fun business.
It's a fun business. My wife many times says, "When are you going to retire?" And it's like, why would I retire when I'm having so much fun?
That's exactly
and it's profitable too. That doesn't hurt things.
There's that. But we achieve this,
and that's it. That's the end result we're looking for.
Certainly is. So I think BBF has been in existence about 30 years.
A little more than 30 years,
Yep.
And we've been consistently growing our number of deals that happen. So just to share some numbers on because we keep very good records of that database because we use our database and valuations to get true data on what businesses should sell for when we're taking somebody to market. And so last year, 2024, we had 1,153 transactions, and that equaled in dollar value about $854 million. So that's an average transaction of $740,615. And that's just the small business. We've got a lot of people that get into that middle market, and that's not even in those numbers. And basically small business is, for the most part, businesses that are selling for $5 million and less.
Yeah, I always say to people, it's funny you would say that because that's exactly what I say. It's, for my definition, it's dictated by the SBA 7A.
Exactly.
Which the 7A at the moment is 5 million.
We hope it's going up this year. We've been lobbying for that.
Fingers crossed.
And interesting, on that 740,000 average value that sells, I mean, that's taking into account, it's, like on any system, there's a lot of businesses on there that are overpriced and are skewing that number, and there's also some stuff on there that's distress sales, which are selling for 50,000. So it's really, we're all over the board from that 0 to 5 million.
Yeah, well, let me ask you a question there. This is a little bit off track, if you will, because this is something I always say. Of all the businesses that are listed in, we'll say the United States, maybe Canada as well, but in the United States, what percentage of businesses actually sell throughout the United States? Give me that number.
So, you hear different numbers on different articles you read and different numbers that you look. The number that's out there is 15% sell and 85% don't. But, depending on somebody's business model, and I know your business model is similar to mine, I don't take a lot of listings. I take listings that I feel will sell. And I can honestly say that I probably flip that the other way, and I probably sell 85% of what I take on. And I think last year I was higher than that. I only had one listing that didn't sell, and there was reasons for it. It had some declining sales that was unexpected.
Absolutely. So it's okay to, so brokers do things in different ways, and I personally, I don't criticize what people do. But here's the thing. If you're going to sell your business, make sure that you know that you want to sell it, and you make it clear to the broker that you want to sell the business, not just list the business. So that's a little bit of an aside from what we're talking about. But let me show you another little statistic. I want to get your take on this because you're a very knowledgeable and experienced guy. I always say that. Let me just throw this one at you as well. Buyers who are interested in buying a business, allegedly. And so they come in, they talk to us, they kick around information, they sign a non-disclosure, which for me is that's the big first step moment, the big moment. I always say that of all those buyers who are interested, say they're interested, get information, get into dialogue, might be talking to the seller, only 10% of those ever buy a business? How far am I in or out there?
And I've heard 2%, but I think you're right. I mean, because I would say that people that inquire on listings that I've had, half the people never get to the NDA, the non-disclosure. So there's half of them that are already gone.
Yep.
And out of that 50%, half of those, we're not taking it any further because half of them probably don't have the wherewithal to buy a business. So we're not even disclosing because most of what we do is confidential, and we're not even going to disclose anything at that point. So we've already eliminated 75% of the people right up front. So yeah, it probably is somewhere between that 2 and 10. I guarantee you.
So, but whether it's 2 or 10, what that tells us is that making sure that any buyer that's brought forward, that's put in front of a seller, and we use this phrase qualifying, don't we, has been properly qualified. Now, that can be as long or as short as you want it to be, but making sure that they are really genuine buyers and they're not in that 90% category. So I went off track a little bit there, though, because that's not really associated with BBF. Any other statistics you brought for us?
No, nothing that I can think of off the top of my head.
So
right
what
now.
about co-brokering then? We're unique. We're the only
organization that, and that's one of BBF's defining strengths, I feel, is its co-brokering system. Brokers share listings. We work together to complete the transactions, and because of that, we increase exposure for the listings. We help buyers find more options, result in more closing deals for everybody. And this culture of cooperation is rare in many states and a major competitive advantage in Florida. And I tell sellers, even if they're not going to do business with me, their first question should be of somebody they're interviewing: are you a BBF broker? Because it's not just one person that's seeing and selling your listing. You've got 1,000 people out there that they may have a buyer, and that's the power of our cooperation. I can't believe other states and organizations have not taken hold of that. And because of that, we are the largest state association in the country. And you take California, which is much bigger than us, and Texas, much bigger than us area-wise, and probably business brokerage-wise total, their associations are less than half the size of our association.
Really? Oh, okay, yeah. It's interesting. So if I get an inquiry, so I have a listing, I get an inquiry from a fellow BBF broker, I am obliged to provide information. So let's just take it one step back. I think on our MLS, we have information on the business already there that we can see, but potential buyers can see as well. When they go into they see a lot more information than certainly we used to have in the past,
yep.
Don't we? So they can, if you're looking at a business, you just go onto a BBF and you can look at a lot of information on that business. Not the name, not the specific location. Maybe it's down by county.
It could be county, it could be region.
Yeah. So you can see a heck of a lot, and then you can pick up the phone and talk to the listing broker. Or if you're working with a broker as a buyer's broker, you can do that. But I stress, if I get an inquiry from a fellow BBF broker, I have to respond. It is compulsory.
Absolutely, it's part of what makes us unique in the industry, is that power of the cooperating.
Yeah, indeed. And Paul, I don't take any inquiries from non-BBF brokers at all.
Yep, and that's that is definitely, probably most brokers feel that same way.
Well, you gotta do that.
We like to deal with people that have experience on buying a business because it's complicated. And when somebody doesn't have the experience, sometimes you can't make it to the finish line. And that's our goal, is to get to the finish line for our buyers and our sellers both.
Yeah. And
make them Happy buyers, happy sellers.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. I'm so pleased you did that. That's my motto, really. And it's actually, I think within BBF, that's probably many brokers.
I agree.
Many brokers' motto. So when we have a business and we want to put it onto the BBF, there are certain rules and regulations that we have to adhere to, aren't there, in terms of the information that we put on there? Can we just elaborate on that a little?
Sure. So BBF members are bringing buyers and sellers together, and by combining professional valuation, and we have the data that we accumulate in our BLS system to give us the proper numbers to come up with a comparative market analysis to be able to tell a client, this is where your business should sell between, X and Y. So we do a professional comparative market analysis. Confidential marketing is definitely a part of that. We've got, of course, the powerful statewide MLS, BLS system. Collaborative co-brokerage, as Shaun was saying. Rigorous buyer qualification, and you brought that up, and that's important, that we vet that buyer to make sure he has the wherewithal, and in some cases, the experience to be able to run that business. I mean, I've talked people out of buying businesses because I know that they're not going to make it, especially, you take the restaurant business. It takes a special person, and somebody that's been a shoe salesman all their life, and they all of a sudden they want to go in the restaurant business. I highly suggest they go to work for somebody first and learn a little bit about the business before they invest their life savings into buying a restaurant. And then structured negotiations and brokerage guided due diligence and closing support. So we're all about processes, and the process dramatically increases the likelihood of a successful sale and ensures both buyers and sellers are professionally represented.
Yeah. Let's just talk about closing. Let's just talk about how we achieve closing again here in Florida. Now, this isn't a BBF ruling; it's a Florida bar, I think, ruling.
It would be the Florida Bar along with the Florida Real Estate Commission.
Yes, and let's
remember, combination of both. We're licensed professionals here in Florida. One of only 17 states, requires a license.
Yeah, so let's remember that. So you have to have a real estate license in order to be a business broker. Paul and I both have got real estate brokers licenses. Quite frankly, I've got it, but I don't really use the broker's license. But Paul has his own brokerage, and obviously that's his, and his people are under that brokerage. So we have to have that. So we're ruled by FREC, Florida Real Estate Commission. Those are the rules that we have to adhere to.
And one thing too that BBF we started this back in, I think it was 2017. Prior to that, if you had a license and the membership fee, you're pretty much in. And we changed things because we're looking for quality brokers. We're not looking for the numbers. It's not our goal to grow the membership. We love to grow it, but we want to grow it with good business brokers, and that's important that we have quality people. So one of the things when somebody comes in and wants to open an office and be a member of BBF, they have to prove to us that they've done a certain number of closings within the last 3 years. In order to get in. And if they don't bring those deals together, then we require them to take 5 courses, which is probably about 50 to 60 hours of education to learn.
Are they BBF courses? Or
they're done through the International Business Broker Association, which we'll talk about too.
Yes, okay. Yeah, so that's great. And that's all part of the the development and evolution of BBF particularly in the last, I would say, 10 years. I think in the 20 years, things happened, but in the last 10 years, it's really changed a heck of a lot. And quality.
I've seen it since I've been in. I've seen that quality pick up, and
Yeah.
it's not a bunch of used car salesmen. And we are definitely professionals. And again, when you talk about those 17 states that require a license, and I've done some business in some of the states that don't require a license, where we've picked up a listing there, and it's scary because anybody can hang a shingle out in the front yard of their office, and they're in business, and you don't know what their background is, you don't know what and some pretty predominant states, so it's scary. 17 out of 50 require a license of some type.
A license of some type, and of course I think the other thing is, the way I look at it is that my real estate license really comes into play when I have a business that is I have listed for sale, and it's got some commercial real estate associated with it.
Yep.
You can't sell real estate in Florida unless you've got a real estate license, of course, and therefore we have to do the two together. We have to have two separate agreements, contracts.
Yep.
And
they've done two separate closings.
Two separate closings. That's right.
And the FREC, Florida Real Estate Commission, and Department of Business and Professional Regulation look at a business as being real estate, even though there's no real property attached. So even if you're just selling a business and there is no real estate, that license is required in Florida.
Absolutely. So okay, let's talk about the IBBA. We just touched on it there, International Business Brokers Association. I have to tell you, some of the advances that we've made in the last few years have been down to this guy here. He's driven a lot of stuff through in BBF, and I'm very grateful for that. It's absolutely the case. So IBBA in particular, then, I think you were very instrumental in us joining closer to the IBBA. But,
yeah, we made a decision back in 2021, so everybody remembers 2020, the period that COVID happened around the world. And so we weren't really meeting regularly, which we have. The makeup of BBF is 5 districts that are throughout the state of Florida, and we have regular meetings that we do education at. So during COVID, obviously most of the restaurants were closed, and we weren't meeting for probably about a year and a half. And as a result, we built up some funds that we weren't spending. Our expenses were down because we weren't spending them on meetings. So in 2021, the board of directors made a decision that, we wanted to take that money that we'd saved and use it to enhance the benefits that our members received. I mean, it's our members' money, and it should go back to them. And we came up with a plan to buy every BBF member a membership to IBBA, which is the International Business Broker Association. And they're known for their education. That's the strength of IBBA. A lot of professional courses that brokers from all over the country have put together, good solid conferences that they do, which is 2 solid days of education. So we buy every BBF broker a membership to IBBA so that they can utilize some of the benefits. They get a discount on any of the courses that are paid. And definitely we have seen that help our membership. Again, we're all lifetime learners in our business because the business climate changes every day. I mean, it's if you're not a lifetime learner, you're gonna die. And IBBA has helped keep everybody on top of their game.
Yeah. So the IBBA, I joined in 2006, which was not long after I'd started. I spotted that this was the route to really good education, and I joined some time ago, and then I became a CBI about 2 or 3 years after that, which is a certified business intermediary, which is
and that's a very good designation. I mean, that's like the CPA. I mean, it's the letters after your name, but it shows professionalism and dedication to the business.
Yeah, we go to conferences and learn. That's it. It's marvelous. So it's great that we're so So if you are a member of Business Brokers of Florida, you automatically now get membership to the International Business Brokers Association.
Correct. And we probably represent, our membership probably represents 55% of the total IBBA membership.
You're kidding.
And
No.
yeah, because I think they're about 1,800.
Wow.
And we're 1,000 strong.
Wow, of course.
And as a result, when you look at their board of directors, we've got 3 members of our association that are on their board, which is the maximum allowed by the bylaws of the IBBA. In fact, this coming year, we have a former chair of BBF and Florida business broker today, Jim Parker, going to be the incoming chair for IBBA starting in 2026.
Yes, and we know Jim very well. He's a great guy and a good buddy of ours, isn't he? Yeah, terrific. So that's that. Let me just go back a little bit because it just struck me that a point I'd like to make, and that's about our standard BBF documentation and what we can do with that listing agreement. Non-disclosure agreement, which has just been reworked, I think.
Yep.
Was it last year we reworked?
We redid the non-disclosure. We actually added another one for private equity groups.
We did. That's right.
So
yes.
it was another document we added. We redid the listing agreement last year. I think the year before we did the asset and purchase agreement, which is actually being looked at again right now, along with a couple of other agreements. A stock sale agreement, which should be coming out hopefully in the next few weeks. So we're constantly updating our documents, and they're all through attorneys. And these are documents that are approved for the state of Florida, and because the one thing that none of us are attorneys, or I won't say none of us because there are a few attorneys that have come into the business brokerage community, but for the most of us, and we don't want to practice law without a license, so we have them write our agreements, and they're fill in the blank type agreements that will hold up in court if it came down to that. But I always tell buyers and sellers both, I'm comfortable with our agreements on both sides. They're very fair agreements. They're not slighted to a buyer, slighted to a seller. And we've probably got altogether probably 40 to 50 different documents that are available for us.
But the biggie for me, quite frankly, is the standard asset sale and purchase agreement.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It just helps me to, I'll speak for myself, but all of us really, but it helps me to get a business under contract and to move it into what is for me the biggie, due diligence. The big moment is due diligence. So a buyer comes along and says, well, I'd like to make an offer for this business. So I say, okay. So I can go online, onto BBF online, into our special area. I can create the asset sale and purchase agreement for that buyer, for that business. And I can then submit that to the seller. Seller then takes a look at that and says, and as I always say, you can accept, reject, or counter. And if they want to counter, we have documentation for countering. So we do that, go back and forth. We go under contract. Bang, we're under contract. Then I can then submit that to the transaction attorney that we talked about earlier, and then say, well, okay, there's the document, there's the asset sale and purchase agreement. The escrow funds, I ask the buyer to send them to the attorney. I don't touch those personally.
Most of us don't.
And that's very sensible. And then we're off. I'd say to the attorney, don't do anything yet. Don't spend any money yet. We can get through and complete due diligence before anybody has spent a penny with an attorney. Buyers don't have to go off to have an attorney draft up an asset sale and purchase agreement, and we're there. Now, then the transaction attorney comes in, but you'll never get better value for money than you do from a transaction attorney who doesn't actually represent either of the parties, and you have to acknowledge and understand that.
Well, and they're not representing either of the parties directly, but they're also not doing anything detrimental to either party.
Yes,
and that's the key.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
And the one thing too that with our agreement, so our standard asset purchase agreement is, I think it's 22 pages long, and it covers all the terms of the sale. And if you just took that to a regular attorney, it wouldn't be cheap for them to analyze that and go through the whole thing. But the transaction attorneys that we use for closing, or typically will use for closing, they're very familiar with our documents. So they're just really looking at those things that we have changed in the write-in part, because they know what everything else says. And as a result, the closings are very reasonably priced for the transaction
and that's
attorney.
a really good point, the write-in part. I can't change any of the document. I can add things and in the write-in part, or I can remove things in the write-in part. Take this has been changed from that clause, but I can't change the document itself.
And that's so the transaction attorney knows what's going on.
Exactly.
Yep.
And the other thing is, somebody submits. Let's say another broker submits an offer to me for one of the businesses that I've got listed. I can read that. I can read that offer in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because all I have to do is look at the area that has been the writing. So, it really makes life so much easier. And if it makes it easier for me, it makes it easier for my seller and for the buyer as well.
We try to make buying or selling a business an easy process.
And that's why we're over 700,000 average last year for businesses sold in Florida. My goodness.
An interesting fact is I think a lot of this is my opinion, but I think that if I dug into it, we could find some actual numbers. But because of our BLS system and because of how organized we are and the number of transactions we do, businesses here in Florida sell for a higher multiple than like businesses in other areas around the country.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, I really feel that that's true, and I've compared that a little bit with some of the other databases that we all use that have national numbers, and I've definitely noticed ours brings higher. And when you're using a lot of the other national databases, the Florida transactions are outweighing it because we've got the best data there is in the country.
So I think just as probably a final point now, with BBF, we have brokers in our organization, but we also have, and you touched on it earlier, we have other elements as well. We've got attorneys, but what about bankers? What about SBA bankers?
So we've got so the makeup of BBF is we've got starts with an office, and every office has a licensed real estate broker, has to be, we call it a qualifying broker, has to be in charge, and that's a state regulation. And then we've got associate memberships underneath that office, and that could be broker associates or just associates. And the structure here in Florida is you need to be an associate for 2 years active before you can even take the exam to be a broker. And a lot of people don't have any desire to move into that. The advantage of being a broker is you can own your own office. But then our third group, and that makes up about 1,000 people, those two groups. And our third group is our affiliate memberships. And we've probably got about 90 affiliate memberships, and that is lenders, bankers, accountants, attorneys, financial planners, and other professionals that support business brokers.
Right.
And we've got a lot of SBA lenders because that's really the arm that we have for business acquisition. Most banks don't take a lot of risk, so when it comes to borrowing money to buy a business, the SBA has provided a 70% guarantee to the bank on those funds, and there's a fee that goes along with that. The buyers are paying that fee, but that's really one of our only options aside from seller financing to purchase a business if you're going to buy it with some leveraged money.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I think it's the lifeblood of our industry, the SBA 7A. I love it, absolutely love it. Now, if you like filling forms in, then go for an SBA loan. But that's just the bit of hardship that you've got. But it is a fantastic program, and the point that Paul was making there is that you pay for up front. You pay what is really an insurance policy, and that means that the SBA loan is backed to the tune of 70% by the government backed. It's fantastic.
And that's 70%. So I remember during COVID, when we were coming out, the SBA, obviously, small business is the lifeblood of the United States. And the SBA recognizes that. And during COVID, they upped that to a 90%. So when people were having tough times, and it was business-wise, when they were going to sell, if we could get it qualified, the banks had plenty of money to lend because their guarantee was going up. So they had plenty of money to put out there to help us through that 20, 21, 22 to get coming out of COVID.
So we had the IBBA annual meeting in Florida, in Orlando, Florida, as it happens, earlier this year in May time. And so what we do, we have the conference, and we have lots of papers, and it's very educational, etc., etc. But we also have an area for vendors, and I stopped counting at 30. I stopped counting the number. So I think there's plenty of money out there.
There's plenty of money out there, and they even throughout this past government shutdown that we had, they're out there still processing loans. They couldn't get them to the finish line, and even now the government's back open again. There's a little bit of a backup, but it's not. It's a little chaotic right now, but it'll come back real quick. And there's plenty of money out there, and I'm a believer that we all have our favorites on the SBA lenders, but
Yes, we do.
yeah, I like to use somebody that's all they do, and they understand those SBA loans inside and out, because again, they'll help you get to that finish line. I mean, that's their goal too.
And it's people that you know and love and trust, isn't it? That
Absolutely.
You've worked with, and,
Absolutely.
So it's not just any old banker. It's SBA people, and particularly SBA people that we deal with on a regular basis. Well, I think we're about towards the end, Paul. I think that's been marvelous to give people a little.
This is great. And,
peek under the sheets on what the
Absolutely.
BBF's all about.
It's a great organization, and it's we try to preach around the country to try to have them take some of the same practices that we have, and we're well respected around the country for what we do.
Very much so. Paul, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank
today.
you, Shaun.
Marvelous.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Cheerio, everybody. See you next time. Well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening to Happy Buyer, Happy Seller. The sad truth is, only 15% of businesses listed for sale actually sell. Hopefully this episode removed some of the stumbling blocks to sale and highlighted the ways in which barriers can be overcome. If you're a business owner thinking about selling, or a buyer considering your next step, I'm always here to chat and help you think through your options. So, to learn more or access additional resources, then reach out to me directly at www.happybuyerhappyseller.com. Don't worry if you're not ready to make a move yet. An early conversation can make a real difference down the road. And if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with someone who may be considering selling or buying a business. Until next time, I'm Shaun Thornton, helping create happy buyers and happy sellers. Cheerio.